Wait, the JET program placed you in the Inaka?
Hi, I'm Ian. Welcome back to Japan Seikatsu, and I want to talk today about the JET program placement. So in my case, I was actually, at the time I was waiting to hear about my placement. I was reading Alex Kerr's book called Lost Japan, and in that book he talks about when he was a college student in the 1970s, he went to Iya Valley on the island of Shikoku and bought an abandoned old Minka farmhouse and then started to refurbish it. And again, this is in Shikoku, in the middle of Shikoku, deep in Iya Valley, which is one of the most remote valleys in Japan. It's actually where defeated warriors from like the 12th century would escape to, and they would create these vine bridges so that they could cross into different parts of the valley, and if people tried to follow, they could cut the vine bridges. Well, as it turned out, when I realized my Japan placement, it was in Shikoku, in Tokushima Ken, and it was in Iya Valley, which is an area that's called Miyoshi in Tokushima. So I took that as quite an interesting coincidence that I had just been reading that book. I had just been reading the chapter where Alex speaks so much about Iya Valley and this house that he had refurbished, and that was going to be placed so close to it. And you can actually, still to this day, it's called Chiiori. It's actually a non-profit, I believe, Chiiori Trust. And you or anyone, you can make a reservation and you can stay at that old Japanese home that he's beautifully refurbished. And I couldn't recommend it enough. I mean, it's a great place to go visit. So I want to speak today about the Inaka placement, and I want to give 5 benefits to being placed in the Inaka. Let's get started. Okay. Benefit number 1 to living in the Inaka is that your Japanese language abilities will get so much better, so much faster. There's a saying that if you want to take the island, burn the boats, and I think that same mindset is needed for learning a foreign language. You need to put yourself in a position where there is no escape. You have to use the language. You have to hear the language. And getting a placement in the Inaka on the JET program is a perfect way to get much better at Japanese. A lot of the ALTs that are in larger cities are going to be working together or working in offices together. There's more English speakers there. You're just going to be using more English. And one thing I definitely observed over 3 years on the JET program was that the ALTs that were out in the rural areas tended to improve their Japanese. Of course, there's plenty of people in the cities that had great Japanese, improved their Japanese, but it's a trend that I definitely noticed. Okay, benefit number 2 to living in the Inaka is you'll be able to save a small fortune. So the JET program pays you very well, and the cost of living is very reasonable. The rent where I was ranged from $100 to $300 between myself and some other jets. So I was able to save comfortably every month, and I could still travel. It wasn't that much of a sacrifice. So savings is something that you can definitely accomplish in the Inaka. I had one very good friend who was a jet for 5 years, and after the JET program, he spent 1 year in Australia, 1 year in New Zealand, and then he went to grad school in Germany. And that was a 2-year program, of which 1 year was back in Japan. So a total of 4 years, and all of that was funded from his savings from the JET program. So, and I know other ALTs that finished the JET program with no savings. So it's a great opportunity. Definitely take advantage of that opportunity. Okay. Benefit number 3 is it's a slower pace of life before I was on the JET program, I was in IT business consulting, and it was a very, very busy life. Always connected. And then I moved to Shikoku, and I felt totally liberated. I mean, it's like going back in time to the 1950s in some ways. I mean, the banks close at 5 o'clock. Just a much slower pace of life. I would finish work sometimes and go to a local onsen, and they had an outdoor onsen at the top, and there was almost no people there on a Tuesday night or Wednesday night. Literally no people in the entire onsen. And I could just look up at the night stars and have it all to myself for like 400 or 500 yen. So it's a nice pace of life. And for a lot of people that stay in Japan, after the JET program, I ended up going to grad school and then working for a Japanese company. A lot of those opportunities are going to be in the larger cities, Tokyo or Osaka. And you really won't get the chance to live in the countryside. You'll visit as a tourist, but it's completely different. So in today's always connected world, in today's hectic world, this is a great opportunity to escape all that and have a nice slow pace of life in Japan's Inaka. Okay. Benefit number 4 to living in the Inaka is the beautiful nature. So the best part of being in the Inaka is you're in the Inaka. Where I was, we had, and likely where you are, mountains. So you've got great hiking, beautiful vistas. There's also whitewater rafting where I was, which I can't recommend enough. It's one of the most fun things I've ever done in my whole life. Down the Yoshino Gawa River. It's a ton of fun. Also, we have, as I mentioned earlier, vine bridges. There was an hour and a half away by car. There was surfing. There was 30 minutes by car skiing. So, I mean, a lot of people are driving hours and hours to come as tourists to the countryside. You'll have that at your disposal. It's right out the front door. So one of the biggest benefits of being in the Inaka is the fact that you're in the Inaka. And benefit number 5, and I think this is probably the most meaningful benefit, is deeper relationships. You really will become a part of the community. The schools are much smaller, and so the teacher to student ratio is much better. You'll know all of your students' names. They'll all know you. The students in the countryside, there tend to be less behavioral issues. I used to hear stories of in the cities, you got kids on their smartphones and other issues popping up, which I never saw over the course of 3 years in Shikoku at all. Also, in my experience, I taught at the lower schools, and I taught at a middle school, and then I also taught at the community center. So oftentimes, I would be teaching a student, and then I would also be teaching that student's parent or maybe grandparent, and this was maybe the same people that I would get my hair cut from. I had one student in the community center classes that invited me to her restaurant every Tuesday, and she would cook me dinner, and we would have English conversation, and I would ask her Japanese language questions, and she would help me. So we would learn Japanese and English together, and over 3 years, every week, I was in her restaurant, and she cooked me these wonderful, wonderful meals. So these relationships, it really becomes, it's like a second home, it's like a second family. And for me, I was on the JET program 2010 to 2013. I still return to Shikoku, and I get dinner with the JTEs, the other teachers, my students. It had a wonderful big impact, and I think the type of relationships that you build is also closer with the other ALTs. In the sense that you share this unique bond that you're on the other edge of the world in this very remote rural part of a foreign country, and that shared experience kind of brings you quite close. So I've also found post-jet that I've stayed very close friends with a lot of the jets that were out in the more rural placements as well. So lots of wonderful benefits to living in the Inaka. If you have been placed in the Inaka Jet program, congratulations. You're going to have a lovely time, and I wish you the best of luck. If you have any questions at all about living in the Inaka on the JET program, or any general questions about the JET program, please ask below in the comments section, and I'll do my best to answer. And please be sure to click like and to subscribe to Japan Seikatsu. Okay, thank you very much. Take care.